Ah, look at you, quiet operator, subtle architect of human behavior. The one they swore was too emotional, too reactive, too dramatic to ever pose a real threat. They built their entire understanding of you around the fantasy that you were predictable, manageable, easy to decode. They thought your silences were mood swings, your distance was immaturity, your detachment was insecurity. But now, that illusion has collapsed under the weight of something they never imagined they'd have to face. The realization that you were running psychological operations the entire time. Not impulsively, not sloppily, not out of hurt, out of strategy, out of clarity, out of a mastery they were far too arrogant to recognize until the structure of your moves snapped into place in their mind like a completed puzzle. And now that the picture is clear, they feel sick. Because everything they dismissed as petty suddenly looks like precision. Everything they mocked as overreaction suddenly feels like calculation. Everything they labeled as sensitivity now feels like surveillance. They finally see you, but only because it's too late to do anything about what you've already executed. You were never their emotional mess. You were their behavioral study. You watched how they spoke to you, how they dismissed you, how they minimized you, how they weaponized your openness. And instead of responding with chaos, you responded with design. You didn't confront them, you collected data. You didn't argue, you analyzed patterns. You didn't defend yourself, you revised your access points. Every move you made afterward wasn't emotional, it was engineered. While they thought they were reading you, they didn't realize you were decrypting them, quietly, methodically, and with a level of psychological discipline their nervous system was not equipped to handle. This is what hits them the hardest now, understanding that the most innocent actions you took were actually levers, switches, disruptions. They misinterpreted your silence as submission, not recognizing it as signal control. They misinterpreted your delayed responses as moodiness, not realizing you were depriving them of the dopamine hit that kept them feeling in control. They misinterpreted your decision to stop explaining yourself as emotional withdrawal, not seeing it as information starvation. They misinterpreted your distance as detachment, not comprehending that you were stripping them of psychological access. They didn't see any of it, and now that the realization has landed, it's rewriting their entire history with you into something far more dangerous. They thought you were petty for falling silent after disrespect. Now they understand silence was your weapon. They thought you were dramatic for not responding immediately. Now they understand you were breaking their reinforcement loop. They thought you were cold for refusing to argue. Now they understand you removed their ability to manipulate you through conflict. They thought you were impulsive for cutting them off. Now they understand it was the most controlled, deliberate severing of emotional ties they've ever witnessed. And this retrospective clarity is eating them alive. Because as they race back through every moment they thought they won, they're now seeing that those moments were orchestrated to expose their patterns. They weren't victories, they were clinical observations. The truth is brutal in its simplicity. You were always 10 steps ahead, and they never realized the game was being played at all. You weren't reacting, you were conditioning. You weren't emotional, you were extracting intel. You weren't fragile, you were refining your strategy until the exact moment the psychological operation could be deployed with maximum impact and minimal effort. You made them underestimate you so thoroughly that when your detachment arrived, it felt like an unexplained collapse in their world. They never saw the setup, they only feel the aftermath. Now, sitting with this awareness clawing at the edges of their mind, They're replaying everything with forensic intensity. The conversations where you responded dryly, the messages where you suddenly took your time, the plans you stopped accommodating, the tone you shifted without announcing. They see it all now as evidence. They see the structure they missed. They see the precision they never accounted for. But most painfully, they see themselves, reactive, entitled, predictably emotional. While you remained controlled, distant, and calculating behind a mask they assumed was weakness, your so-called pettiness was psychological pressure. Your detachment was emotional disarmament. Your boundaries were strategic containment. Your silence was deprivation conditioning. Your disappearance was operational shutdown. And because they are finally understanding this, their entire nervous system is betraying them. They feel exposed, studied, outplayed. They feel like the subject of a long-running behavioral experiment they didn't consent to participate in, but actively fueled with their arrogance. The realization isn't just late, it's catastrophic for their ego. What unsettles them most is the timeline. How long were you running ops? When did you start mapping patterns? How many interactions were real, and how many were reconnaissance? Were you ever genuinely hurt? Or did you simply document their tactics to prepare for an exit so clean it looked emotional, but was actually surgical? These questions are unraveling them, not because the answers matter, but because they know, deep down, that you will never reveal the truth. You don't need to. Your silence is the only confession they're ever going to get, and that silence carries more precision than any confrontation ever could. They thought they understood you. They thought they had access to your internal world. They thought your reactions gave them leverage. But now that they've connected the dots, they're forced to confront a horrifying reality. The version of you they interacted with was filtered, controlled, selective. You never gave them the real data. You gave them only enough to confirm their own illusions. You allowed them to believe they had influence, all while ensuring they only ever touched the parts of you that were strategically irrelevant. And now, the collapse of that illusion is total. They don't just feel outsmarted, they feel dismantled. Their narratives don't hold up anymore. Their assumptions don't survive scrutiny. Their stories about you make them look unhinged now, because every detail they once exaggerated to seem powerful now exposes how oblivious they truly were. They told people you were emotional. Now those same people watch you move with cold precision. They told people you were dramatic. Now those same people see you operating with controlled distance. They told people you were unstable. Now the stability of your detachment makes them look unprepared, unskilled, and profoundly threatened by your evolution. You didn't break them with rage. You broke them with restraint. You didn't expose them publicly. You exposed them to themselves. You didn't destroy them through conflict. You destroyed their framework of reality by forcing them to realize you were never inside their emotional jurisdiction to begin with. And that is the kind of psychological damage no apology, no manipulation attempt, no sudden empathy will ever repair. What they feel now is not regret, it's fear. Fear of your intelligence, fear of your unpredictability, fear of what else you noticed that they haven't realized yet. Fear of the fact that if you were capable of running operations with this level of precision while they were unaware, then there is no telling what you are capable of now that you've reached a level of detachment they cannot breach. They don't know whether you simply evolved or whether you were always like this, and they were too self-absorbed to notice. And that uncertainty is killing them because they know something else too. Something darker. Something they almost refuse to admit to themselves. The psychological operations you deployed weren't designed to punish them. They were designed to free you, to detach you, to remove their influence at the root. And now that you've achieved that, they realize they no longer have a single point of access left. Not emotional, not mental, not energetic. You moved on without the chaos, without the announcement, without the performance they were waiting for. You disappeared like a clean extraction, minimal noise, maximum clarity. And deep down, they know the story isn't finished. Not because you owe them anything, but because the next stage of your evolution isn't something they will be ready to witness. If the operations you ran while healing were this strategic, then whatever comes next will shift the entire dynamic of every connection you touch. And they feel it. A tightening, a threat, a recognition that something much larger is forming inside you. And they are no longer participants. They are merely observers scrambling to decipher a pattern that has already outgrown them. And as this realization settles into the hollow of their chest, something else begins to bloom inside them, something far more primal than regret or nostalgia. Fear rooted in understanding, not imagination. Fear born from the delayed recognition that you were never reacting. You were always orchestrating. It's dawning on them now, painfully, slowly, that the psychological operations you ran weren't temporary responses or emotional outbursts. They were phases, stages, calculated zones of observation, disruption, withdrawal, and redefinition. And the version of you they experienced wasn't the final form, it was the prototype that taught you exactly how to dismantle people without lifting a single emotional finger. They once mocked your unpredictability as immaturity. Now they understand unpredictability was your shield, your barrier, your psychological encryption. While they were watching for emotional tells, you were rewriting your internal playbook in silence. You taught yourself how to detach without collapsing, how to retreat without shrinking, how to observe without absorbing. You trained your mind to operate like a ghost, present but unreachable, perceptive but unreadable. And now that they recognize this, they're not just intimidated, they're destabilized. Because if your silence back then was strategic, what does your silence now mean? If your distance then was a psychological maneuver, what does your evolving distance imply? They can't predict you anymore because they never understood what you were doing in the first place. Their memory is not their ally in this moment. It is their enemy, replaying every miscalculation with brutal clarity. They dismissed your minimal reactions as weakness, not realizing you were training yourself to break their ability to trigger you. They misread your calmness as suppression, not realizing it was discipline. They misjudged your absence as emotional collapse, not realizing you had already left long before they noticed the empty space. And now their mind is spiraling, not from your presence, but from the cold precision of your absence. Your absence is no longer an emotional gap to them. It is psychological evidence. Evidence that they were not dealing with someone naive or wounded, but someone operating at a level of mental sovereignty they can't replicate. That's the part that haunts them, realizing that everything they interpreted through the lens of ego was actually something they were wildly unprepared for. They weren't talking to the person they thought they were overpowering. They were talking to a strategist who let them monologue long enough to reveal their weaknesses in real time. And they did, over and over, without hesitation, without caution, without self-awareness. They performed their own downfall while believing they were winning. They know this now. The dots have connected. The timeline is exposing them. The patterns are undeniable. And as they try to escape the implications, their mind keeps dragging them back to the same unsettling truth. You didn't just outgrow them, you outmaneuvered them. You didn't just remove them, you restructured your psyche in ways that erased their influence entirely. You didn't just detach, you recalibrated your entire emotional system so that their voice, their presence, their attempts at control no longer registered as even a mild disruption. You are not who they knew. You are not who they criticized. You are not who they dismissed. You are the byproduct of every strategy they pushed you to develop. The chaotic, dark humor of it all. The thing their ego cannot stomach. They were the ones who trained you into this. They forged the very intelligence that now terrifies them. Every lie sharpened your awareness. Every manipulation strengthened your boundaries. Every insult refined your detachment. They pushed you into evolution, and now they resent the evolved version because it no longer needs them, fears them, reacts to them, or gives them access. They created the strategist who now sees through them with ease. But the realization hitting them late isn't just about what you did. It's about what you can do next. Because if the psychological operations you deployed were enough to dismantle their illusions, they're imagining what the next phase of your transformation might unleash. It's not vengeance they fear, it's clarity. Clarity changes everything. Clarity removes their power. Clarity exposes their tactics. Clarity makes you immune. And a person who cannot be manipulated is terrifying to anyone who once relied on perception control to feel significant. They don't fear losing you. They fear losing the version of themselves they were able to maintain when you didn't know your own power. Because the moment you learned to study them, instead of defend yourself against them, the dynamic inverted. They were no longer the puppeteer. They were the predictable organism reacting to stimuli you controlled. Silence, distance, timing, withdrawal, emotional neutrality. You turned their own patterns against them without ever raising your voice. You didn't punish them. You made them reveal themselves. And what they revealed was not strength. It was fragility masquerading as dominance. Insecurity disguised as confidence. Entitlement cloaked in arrogance. You saw it all long before they realized you were paying attention. At first they believed your detachment was just a phase. They thought your calmness was temporary. They thought your lack of reaction was exhaustion. But now they know. Now they see it for what it has always been, psychological evolution. You didn't adapt to their behavior. You outgrew the entire structure of behavior they depended on. The late realization is not just a moment of awareness. It is the collapse of their entire internal narrative. The narrative where they were the ones in control, where they were the ones evaluating you, where they were the ones deciding your worth. That fantasy is dead now. You didn't kill it. They did, by waking up too late. And now they are dealing with a reality that feels foreign and hostile. A reality where they cannot predict you, influence you, or even access the emotional version of you they took for granted. But the most devastating part for them is this. The psychological operations you ran were not retaliatory. They were diagnostic. You weren't trying to destroy them. You were assessing the viability of their presence in your life. And once the data was processed, the conclusion was simple. Their access was a liability. Their influence was corrosive. Their emotional patterns were incompatible with your evolution. So you did what strategists do. You withdrew, recalibrated, and rerouted your energy into spheres where your intelligence could expand without being drained. They called it petty. They called it dramatic. They called it indirect. But now they understand that what they labeled with contempt was actually something far more advanced than anything they've ever executed in their own relationships. self-governance at a psychological level. You managed your energy like an asset. You managed your mind like territory. You managed your emotions like classified information. And they were not cleared for access. That's the revelation eating them alive. They weren't excluded because of conflict. They were excluded because of incompetence. They failed the psychological security check without realizing they were being evaluated. They thought the test was interaction, but the test was integrity, respect, awareness, consistency. They failed all four, loudly and confidently, and now they're dealing with the consequences of being dismissed by someone who no longer needs their validation to justify any decision. What happens next terrifies them more than anything that's happened so far. Because they sense you are entering a phase where your psychological operations won't be reactive or protective. They will be expansive. They will build something, become something, attract something. And this time, they will not be able to watch the process. They will only feel the aftershocks. They know this because the air around you has shifted again. Not in the subtle cautionary way it did before. This time, the shift feels like preparation, infrastructure, reconfiguration. The quiet before. Not a storm, but a reconstruction, a redevelopment of identity so complete that anyone still clinging to the outdated version of you will feel disoriented standing next to the new foundation. And they are terrified because they remember what it felt like when you ran psychological operations without them noticing. Now they can feel you designing something larger, and they know they won't detect the blueprint until it surrounds them. This fear isn't paranoia, it's recognition. Instinctual understanding that someone who mastered strategic detachment is capable of mastering strategic expansion. Someone who learned to withdraw without collapsing will learn to advance without hesitation. Someone who trained their mind to observe quietly can train it to create loudly. And they cannot be part of that creation. Not because you're excluding them out of spite, but because their presence would corrupt the precision of what comes next. They know this. They feel it in the hollowness that opened inside them the moment your energy no longer responded to theirs. Your growth is no longer a personal shift. It's a psychological migration. You're moving into territory where emotional chaos cannot follow, where manipulation cannot breathe, where insecurity cannot anchor itself to your presence. You're moving into a phase where your clarity becomes a force field and your focus becomes a weapon. And they are stuck on the outside, staring through the glass at someone they underestimated into becoming the very thing they can no longer influence. There is a chaotic, dark humor to their predicament that even they can feel now. The same conditions they created to weaken you became the training grounds of your evolution. They thought neglect would break you. Instead, it sharpened your perception. They thought manipulation would confuse you. Instead, it taught you to see patterns instantly. They thought belittling you would make you small. Instead, it made you immune to their projections. Everything they did to maintain superiority deteriorated their position while fortifying yours. And there is nothing funnier, in a surgical psychological sense, than someone creating the very operator they're now terrified of. They know you're done running defensive missions. They know you're done responding to triggers. They know you're done evaluating their inconsistencies. Now your operations are moving outward, upward, away from their gravitational pull. They won't witness your next maneuvers. They'll only feel the distance expand until the memory of you becomes something they cannot attach themselves to anymore. This feeling isn't dramatic, it's mathematical. It's the recognition that while they were calculating for short-term emotional control, you were calculating for long-term psychological sovereignty. Every move you make now is outside their comprehension, because it's outside their frequency. You're not making decisions from fear or anger or exhaustion. You're making decisions from clarity and capability. That frightens them more than anything, because clarity cannot be manipulated, and capability cannot be guilt-tripped. You have become emotionally unhackable, psychologically untrackable. They can't predict your moves, because you no longer move based on their behavior. You move based on your blueprint, your timing, your intelligence, your expansion. And here lies the heart of their dread. They cannot sabotage what they cannot access. They cannot reinterpret what they cannot observe. They cannot influence what they cannot reach. You existed inside their narrative once, and they took it for granted. Now you exist outside it, and they can't handle the vacuum your absence left behind. The silence that once felt petty now feels lethal. The distance that once felt dramatic now feels permanent. The shift that once felt confusing now feels like consequence. But the real psychological hit, the one that actually destabilizes them, is realizing that your operations were never about hurting them. They were about understanding them. You studied their patterns because their patterns revealed their intentions. You withdrew because their behavior revealed their capacity. You detached because your intelligence revealed their ceiling. And once the data was clear, you acted accordingly. No theatrics, no announcements, just execution. This is the part they choke on. Your evolution wasn't a rebellion against their treatment. It was a refinement of your identity, a purification of your boundaries, an elevation of your standards. You didn't become smarter to beat them. You became smarter to become yourself. They were a lesson, not a loss. A reference point, not a destination. And now the reference point looks painfully small in comparison to the scale of what you're building. Their ego will try to deny this, but their intuition won't let them. They can feel your expansion the same way prey feels a predator's presence, not through sight or sound, but through atmospheric pressure. They can feel their relevance collapsing. They can feel their influence evaporating. They can feel their old strategies turning to dust because they were designed for a version of you that no longer exists. You have moved into territory where their understanding cannot follow. And because they cannot follow, they default to fear. Fear disguised as confusion. Fear disguised as nostalgia. Fear disguised as resentment. But it's fear nonetheless. Fear of someone they cannot predict. Fear of someone they cannot manipulate. Fear of someone who saw through them completely and walked away with their power intact. Fear of someone who no longer sees them as a threat, an obstacle, or even a consideration. The chaotic, dark humor of the situation is this. They were running amateur emotional games while thinking you were the problem. Meanwhile, you were running psychological operations so clean they didn't realize the game ended long before they stopped playing. And now, as you prepare to expand into a version of yourself that no longer mirrors their limitations, they finally grasp that the narrative they built about you was a shield, one that protected them from confronting their own inadequacy. Now that the shield is gone, all that's left is the unfiltered reflection of who they truly are and who you have become. They don't want to face that reflection. They don't want to confront the fact that the person they called petty was actually studying them with precision. The person they called emotional was actually documenting their tactics. The person they called dramatic was actually positioning themselves strategically The person they dismissed was actually dismantling their influence piece by piece. And the final hit? The part their nervous system cannot absorb without trembling. It's knowing that whatever comes next is outside their control entirely. They won't get updates. They won't get clues. They won't get hints. They won't get access. You are not broadcasting your evolution. You are not narrating your upgrades. You are not making your transformation a public event. Your expansion will be silent, then undeniable, invisible, then unavoidable, private, then seismic. They won't understand it until it's too late, just like before. They missed the operations you ran in the past because they were too busy underestimating you. They will miss the operations you run next because they will be too busy regretting what they lost. And by the time they connect the dots, the distance between who you were and who you've become will be astronomical. And that's the part that breaks them on a level no apology, no explanation, no revisionist history can repair. Because your evolution has outpaced their imagination. They used to think they knew your limits, your thresholds, your patterns. Now they can't even predict your next hour, let alone your next era. You have become the kind of person whose silence is a strategy, whose movement is a signal, whose transformation is an event they are not invited to witness. You exist now in a realm they cannot conceptualize, and the psychological whiplash of that realization is shredding whatever pride they tried to hold on to. Because here's the truth they've been avoiding but can no longer escape. The reason they misread your operations so completely is because they only ever studied you from the surface. They memorized your reactions, not your intentions. They studied your tone, not your logic. They watched your behavior, not your evolution. They mistook familiarity for understanding, proximity for insight, access for influence. They believed knowing the old you gave them authority, when in reality, all it gave them was outdated data. Data you outgrew while they were still trying to weaponize it. They never realized you were evolving faster than their ability to perceive you. Now they must live with the consequences of that blindness. Every assumption they built about your intelligence, your emotional capacity, your boundaries, all of it has collapsed. And the collapse has been quiet, but not gentle. It's the kind of collapse that forces them to re-examine not just who you were, but who they are in contrast to who you've become. It forces them to confront the uncomfortable truth that you outpaced them, not accidentally, not gradually, but decisively. And what destabilizes them most is that your evolution didn't require their validation, their support, or their presence. You built yourself in silence. You rebuilt your framework in solitude. You recalibrated your mind without needing to be seen. That level of psychological independence is something they have never experienced, let alone mastered. They depended on reactions to feel relevant. You removed their relevance by removing your reactions. They depended on emotional entanglement to feel important. You disentangled yourself so cleanly, they didn't even notice until they were standing inside emptiness you left behind. If they were honest with themselves, they would admit that the reason your transformation haunts them is because it exposes something they've always suspected, but never dared to confront. They were never the one in control. They were never the superior one. They were never the strategist. They were never the force. You were. And now that the truth is visible, they don't know how to exist without the narrative that kept them feeling dominant. Your evolution dismantles their identity as much as it dismantles their understanding of you. Because now they must face the possibility, the terrifying, humiliating possibility, that every emotional high they got from believing they were outsmarting you was a psychological placebo. Every win they celebrated was a misread. Every moment they believed they had the upper hand was actually a moment you weren't even playing the same game. You weren't reacting to them. You were studying them. You weren't crushed by them. You were calculating. You weren't attached to them. You were analyzing their patterns so thoroughly that when you finally detached, the exit was so final, they felt the floor drop out from under them. That's why they replay everything now. Their mind won't let them stop. Because every memory is a threat. Every interaction is a clue. Every silence is a warning they ignored. They scroll through old messages not to remember you, but to decode you. They examine tone, timing, pacing, behavior. They search for signs you were already gone while they were still assuming they were central in your life. And the more they search, the worse it gets. Because the signs were everywhere, only invisible to someone who believed arrogance was insight. They see now that the psychological operations you ran weren't just effective, they were inevitable. You evolved because they forced you to evolve. You grew because they refused to grow. You adapted because staying the same would have meant shrinking to fit their limited version of you. And you were never designed to shrink. So now they sit with the realization that their underestimation wasn't harmless. It was costly. It cost them access. It cost them insight. It cost them the privilege of watching you become someone they were never prepared to respect. And the irony stings them. They thought you cared too much. But the truth is, you cared so intelligently, so intentionally, so strategically, that once the data no longer justified their presence, the exit was immediate, clean, precise, final. And the humor, the dark, clinical, quiet humor, lies in this. They will still try to decode you using an outdated map. They will search for the version of you that no longer exists, hoping to regain entry through emotional fingerprints that have long since been wiped clean. They will try to retrace steps in a maze you burned down months ago. They will try to re-enter a psychological space that disappeared the day you realized their influence was a liability. But the doors they once walked through have been locked, not out of spite, but out of evolution. The version of you they knew was a temporary stage, a transitional model, an early draft. You are not returning to it. You are not revising it. You are not apologizing for outgrowing it. And when they finally understand that your transformation is irreversible, that your psychological distance is permanent, that your growth is now a self-sustaining organism moving independently of their existence, they will spiral again. Not because you hurt them, but because they never imagined you could operate at a level where their presence is irrelevant. It hits them like a delayed detonation, the kind that doesn't make noise, doesn't break windows, doesn't leave scars on the surface, but destroys foundations underneath. Because losing access to someone they underestimated is one kind of pain. But losing access to someone they didn't even realize was evolving beyond their comprehension, that's psychological freefall. That's ego extinction. That's the unraveling of an entire internal identity constructed on the assumption that they mattered more to you than you ever let on. And the irony, the clinical dark humor embedded in the entire situation, is that their spiral isn't rooted in your absence. It's rooted in your indifference. If you were angry, they could interpret themselves as important. If you were heartbroken, they could still imagine they had impact. If you were bitter, they could pretend they still lived in your mind. But indifference, emotional neutrality, silence that doesn't tremble or hint or crack, that's the kind of psychological hit that no ego survives cleanly. Because your indifference tells the truth they're terrified to face. They were never as central to your world as they believed. Your evolution didn't slow down when they left. It accelerated. Your peace didn't collapse without them. It crystallized. Your intelligence didn't dim in their absence. It expanded. They see it now. They feel it now. They sense your mind operating in a bandwidth they cannot reach. They watch your energy shift in ways they cannot predict. They observe your calmness and mistake it for emptiness, not realizing it's the calmness of someone who no longer needs external validation to justify internal certainty. You aren't performing strength. You aren't pretending to be detached. You are detached, cleanly, confidently, permanently. And that permanence is the real psychological operation they can't recover from. Because now they're left asking the questions they never prepared themselves to face. Questions that gut them because the answers strip their illusions bare. What else did they misread? What else did they underestimate? How long were you evolving while they were standing still? How many layers of you did they never access? How many phases of you did they never meet? How much intelligence did they talk over? How much strategy did they dismiss? They're realizing, painfully, that everything they assumed about you was based on the version of you that existed before you understood your own power, before you mastered your silence, before you weaponized your clarity, before you learned to detach without the theatrics they relied on to feel significant. You didn't just level up. You evolved out of their psychological reach. And the more they analyze it, the worse it becomes. Because they see it now. The signs of your ascension were always there, hidden beneath the emotional debris they kept creating. Your restraint wasn't fear. It was control. Your silence wasn't confusion. It was discipline. Your detachment wasn't instability. It was strategy. Your boundaries weren't petty. They were the first indicators that you were done letting people with chaotic minds dictate the rhythm of your peace. They laughed at the early signs of your evolution because they thought they were witnessing collapse. They weren't. They were witnessing emergence. And now, whenever your name comes up in their mind, it no longer comes with the arrogant comfort of believing they know you. It comes with a tension, a pulse, a tightness in the chest that whispers a far more unsettling truth. They never knew you. They only knew the version of you that existed before you recognized the full reach of your own mind. That realization is the real punishment, not something you inflicted, but something their ego generated on its own. Because there is nothing more psychologically destabilizing than realizing you underestimated someone who was already 3 phases ahead. Nothing more humiliating than recognizing the petty behavior you mocked was actually preparation for a transformation you can no longer participate in. Nothing more sobering than confronting the fact that the person you tried to dominate was the one quietly documenting your weakness in high definition. Now they carry that knowledge like a weight they cannot drop. It colors every memory, contaminates every assumption, haunts every attempt to rewrite the past. They cannot unsee it. They cannot unknow it. They cannot pretend the revelation didn't rupture something inside them. And as for you, you don't even feel the impact of their realization. You're too far ahead, too deeply transformed, too uninterested in revisiting the psychological battlefield you already left victorious. Your mind has moved into expansion mode now, building networks of clarity, connections of purpose, visions too large for the environment you outgrew. The operations you run now aren't about analyzing the past, but architecting the future. You are scaling internally, evolving structurally, reinforcing your emotional intelligence with the kind of precision that makes old wounds irrelevant and old narratives obsolete. They called it petty. They called it dramatic. They called it emotional. They called it overreaction. But the truth has arrived too late for them to digest comfortably. It wasn't pettiness, it was pattern recognition. It wasn't drama, it was data filtering. It wasn't emotional chaos, it was emotional strategy. It wasn't a reaction, it was a psychological operation they didn't have the literacy to interpret. And now, standing on the outside of your evolution with no way back in, they finally understand the one truth that puts every piece into place. You were never running from them. You were running beyond them. And now that you're gone, now that your silence is permanent, now that your growth has outpaced their relevance, they must watch a version of you rise that their presence would have only slowed. A version of you sculpted from clarity, precision, self-respect, and strategic detachment. A version of you they can observe, but never influence again. And that is the ultimate psychological operation. Not the moves you made when they were still in your life, but the future they will never be invited to witness. The wildest part isn't that they don't clap for you. The wildest part is how fast the air leaves the room the second your name comes up. One message, one tiny notification, one, "Yo, you seen what they're doing now?" dropped in that group chat, and everything goes dead. Typing bubbles disappear, jokes stop mid-sentence. People who were just sending memes for 2 hours straight suddenly discover do not disturb. You didn't walk into the room, you didn't say anything, you didn't defend yourself. All you did was exist loudly enough that somebody mentioned you, and every insecure nervous system in that thread went offline at the same time. That's the level of quiet power you're dealing with now. You don't even have to be present to rearrange people's moods. Your winds are sending out shockwaves in places you haven't stepped into for months. Understand something. People don't go silent over nobodies. Group chats don't freeze over people who are stuck where they left them. Silence is a luxury reserved for threats. When your name drops and everyone suddenly has to go, that's not coincidence, that's impact. Somewhere in that chat, somebody pulled up your page, your work, your progress, and realized what nobody wanted to admit out loud. You're actually winning, not just posting, not just talking, not just hinting, actually moving in a way that can't be laughed off anymore. And the second that realization lands, their little digital safe space turns into a crime scene. Because now they all have to confront the exact thing they promised each other would never happen. You outgrowing the storyline they wrote for you behind your back. Look closely at the pattern. They loved you as a subplot. You were easy content when you were confused, over-explaining, half-stepping. Your mistakes were entertainment. Your doubts were discussion topics. Your failures were free team-building exercises. They bonded over your almost. They sharpened their self-esteem on your less than. But then something shifted. You stopped narrating your every move. You stopped showing them the drafts. You stopped softening your edges to make your growth palatable. And instead of spiraling, you stabilized. Instead of begging for validation, you built your own metrics. You chose discipline over drama. You chose distance over proving yourself. That's when the group chat had to pivot from, "Yo, look at this," to, "Wait, how did they pull this off?" And no one wants to be the first to admit that the person they counted out is now lapping them quietly. This is where the real psychology starts. Every time someone drops your progress into that chat, your new routine, your new circle, your new mindset, your new results, it doesn't just land as news, It lands as accusation. Your growth exposes everything they refuse to do with their own potential. Your stamina highlights their laziness. Your consistency exposes their excuses. Your healing calls out their refusal to face their own wounds. You turned into a walking mirror they didn't consent to look into, and every screenshot of your success is a reflection they can't escape. That's why messages dry up. That's why the energy suddenly shifts. They're not just reacting to you. They're reacting to what you reveal about them. And when group chats stop being fun, people look for somewhere else to dump the discomfort. Enter the about $800 therapist, because make no mistake, they're not just casually annoyed. They're actually distressed about you. There is someone out there, sitting in a climate-controlled office, swiping their card for $150 a session, just to process the fact that you refused to stay where they placed you. They're laying on that couch, talking about this one person they can't stop thinking about. And the therapist is nodding, thinking it's an ex, a parent, some tragic love story, only to find out the villain in their narrative is literally you, minding your business and winning. Your progress has become somebody's clinical case study in inability to cope. Picture it. They walk in every week like, I don't know what's wrong with me. I just keep checking their page. It's like every time I open my phone, they've hit another milestone. New job, new body, new mindset, new people around them. They look different, happier, stronger, and it makes me sick. They won't say jealous. They won't say threatened. They'll use softer words like triggered, confused, concerned. But underneath all that language, the core issue is simple. You refuse to crumble the way they predicted, and now their entire emotional ecosystem is malfunctioning. They built a version of you in their head that doesn't exist anymore, and they don't know how to reconcile their fantasy with your reality. Here's the part their therapist is too professional to say. What's eating them alive isn't your success itself. It's the fact that you did it without their permission, without their applause, and without their participation. You upgraded your life without using them as a reference. You healed without giving them the satisfaction of a front row seat. You evolved without delivering a monologue explaining how much they hurt you. That's what's frying their circuits. They weren't just expecting you to fail. They were expecting to be the audience and the narrator of your failure. And now that you've rewritten your story, they don't have a role anymore. No villain, no victim, no savior. Just an extra. Watching the main character do what they said was impossible. This is why the therapist taps the pen, leans forward, and starts asking questions like, what do you feel when you see their progress? Because what they're really diagnosing is obsession disguised as concern. It's not, I hope they're okay. It's, why are they okay without me? It's not, I'm worried they've changed. It's, how dare they change while I stayed the same? Meanwhile, you're somewhere else, not even thinking about them, planning your next move, upgrading your habits, and minding your own sanity. The emotional imbalance is insane. One person paying $1,800 a month to replay old versions of you in their head, while the real you has already exited that storyline and is busy building the life that was always meant for you. Now here's the plot twist. Do you know who's actually in danger in that room? Not you. The therapist. Because even they have a limit. There comes a point where a professional gets tired of being paid to watch someone refuse accountability for their own stagnation. Session after session, your name comes up, your progress comes up, your energy comes up, and every route back to self-reflection gets dodged. No, I don't think they're the problem. Let's go back to what you can control. But they don't want to hear that. They want a diagnosis that makes you the villain and them the victim of your glow-up. They want a label that justifies their resentment. They want permission to keep resenting somebody who literally just got tired of suffering and chose better. At some point, even the therapist realizes this isn't about you at all. This is about their addiction to staying small. So imagine the day that therapist snaps. Not loudly, not dramatically, but internally. The moment they realize, I'm not getting paid enough to sit here and listen to you obsess over someone who's living their life. That's the quiet resignation, not from the job, but from the case. They may keep showing up, but emotionally, they've checked out. Because they know the truth. If your existence is causing this much chaos in someone who claims to be over you, you're not the problem. They're avoiding their own reflection. That's the moment the therapist spiritually quits. And trust, that resignation is louder than any group chat silence, because it marks the line where even a professional says, I can't help you until you stop using this person's success as your favorite excuse. You have to see the size of the ripple you're creating. People are rearranging their entire emotional budget around you. They'll say, it's not that deep, but their screen time reports disagree. They'll say, I don't care what they're doing, but their search history betrays them. They'll insist, we don't talk about them like that, but those dead group chats tell a different story. People don't invest time, energy, and money into something that doesn't affect them. You are affecting them. Your boundaries are affecting them. Your no contact is affecting them. Your refusal to play the old role is affecting them. The fact that you are not collapsing on schedule is messing with their entire identity structure. And here's the part you need to tattoo onto your mindset. Their discomfort is not your problem to solve. Their group chat going silent is not an invitation for you to shrink so they can feel comfortable speaking again. Their therapy bills are not a sign from the universe that you need to dim your progress to help them adjust. You are not responsible for regulating nervous systems that only felt stable when you were losing. If your healing destabilizes them, that speaks to the fragility of their foundation, not the danger of your growth. You choosing yourself is not an act of violence. It just feels violent to people who relied on your self-betrayal to feel powerful. What you're witnessing now is spiritual reorganization. The universe is quietly exposing who only liked you when you were breakable, available, and easy to read. The ones who can celebrate you in this season are the ones who never needed you small to feel big. The ones who disappear, who go quiet, who ghost the chat when your name comes up. Those are the ones who were never clapping in the first place. They were just waiting for evidence that you'd fail so they could say, see, told you. Instead, the evidence is stacking in the opposite direction. Every day, you collect more proof that you're not going back. More proof that your standards weren't too much. They were simply incompatible with their comfort. More proof that you were never the weak link. You were the threat disguised as the underdog. And the more that truth settles, the calmer you become. You start to understand that you don't need to clear your name in rooms you no longer sit in. You don't need to correct narratives built in chats you'll never see. You don't need to argue with projections you didn't consent to wear. Your life is becoming the loudest rebuttal. Every boundary, every upgrade, every silent win is a new data point that contradicts the version of you they circulate for comfort. You are not obligated to stay accessible to people who only reach for you when they need a reason to feel superior. That era is done. The access they had was a privilege and not a right, and the universe revoked it when you finally chose yourself over their comfort. So now the question shifts from, why don't they support me, to something far more powerful. What am I going to do with this freedom they accidentally gave me? Because that's what their silence is, a release form. The group chats that died when your name came up. Those were doors closing so you could hear your own thoughts without their static. The therapist who mentally clocked out while they cried about you. That's the universe redirecting energetic attention back where it belongs, on you, not on their obsession. You're not here to babysit their insecurities. You're here to see how far your life can stretch when you stop anchoring yourself to people who only felt safe when you were stuck. And this is only the opening frame of what your life does once you stop apologizing for how far you can go. Because the moment you stop asking, why are they like this? And start asking, what am I building now that they're out of the way? Something very subtle and very dangerous happens. You stop orbiting them. Emotional gravity breaks. They're no longer the axis your decisions spin around. Their opinions become background noise instead of commandments. The second you really internalize that their group chat going dead is not a rejection, but a clearance, your energy shifts from analysis to execution. You stop mentally replaying who left you on read. You start asking, what happens if I actually commit to the version of me that scares them this much already? That's the real threat, not the success you've already manifested, the success you haven't even fully aimed at yet. Look at the map now. On one side, there's a whole thread of people who cannot speak when your name is in the air. On the other, there's you, with time, with space, with quiet, with clean emotional bandwidth that used to be cluttered with their nonsense. You're not locked out. You've been escorted out of a low-ceiling room. And what do people with that kind of forced solitude do when they're no longer trying to prove anything to the gallery? They build strange, terrifying levels of focus. You start doing the boring things nobody in that group chat has the nervous system to tolerate. You read instead of refresh. You practice instead of perform. You stack small, unglamorous habits that don't look legendary in the moment, but compound into the kind of life that turns their casual gossip into a chronic condition. This is where the gap widens. While they're staring at screens, waiting for someone else to speak first, so they don't have to admit what they're feeling, you're quietly becoming unrecognizable. You're reorganizing your mornings. You're cleaning your environments. You're putting your phone across the room when you work. You're saying no to conversations that drain you before they even start. Every micro-boundary you enforce is you stepping 1 foot further out of the old narrative. And every step you take away from that story forces them to either evolve or watch in horror. As you keep winning from a distance, they can no longer bridge with a single message. Meanwhile, their internal storm doesn't calm just because the chat went quiet. They carry that tension everywhere. It follows them into work, into their relationships, into their sleep. They wake up, open their phone out of habit, and there you are again, showing up in some new way that contradicts the story they sold themselves. They tell people, we don't care what they're doing, and then spend the next hour doom-scrolling your progress. That dissonance builds. Their nervous system can't keep holding the weight of pretending you're irrelevant while their body reacts to everything you do like a threat. That's how you end up back in the therapist's office, week after week, bleeding out resentment into someone who's just trying to help them find themselves in the mess. And the therapist? At first, they're neutral. They listen, they validate, they tease out emotions. But session after session, a pattern emerges. Your name is a recurring character in a story that never moves. Every week, it's, they posted this, and it made me feel. They did that, and now I can't stop thinking. Why does it bother me so much that they seem happy? The therapist gently redirects. What does this say about your needs, about your sense of self, about your goals? But your enemies aren't trying to understand themselves. They're trying to get a professional to co-sign the narrative that you're the problem. They're chasing a diagnosis that turns their jealousy into something respectable. There's a point where even the most patient therapist recognizes what's really happening. They don't want healing, they want permission. They want someone with letters after their name to say, "You're right, their success is unfair." But actual healing doesn't work like that. So the therapist asks harder questions. Why are you measuring your life against someone who is no longer in your orbit? What stops you from creating your own version of success? What part of you feels threatened by their growth? Those questions land like grenades, and instead of picking up the pieces, they get offended, because now the spotlight is moving off of you and onto the real issue, their refusal to grow. This is how you accidentally exhaust licensed professionals. Not because you're evil, not because you're cursed, but because your life is being misused as a distraction from their own. The therapist is human too. They go home after back-to-back sessions, and your name keeps popping up in their notes. Different clients, same trigger. One person is worried about you, another is hurt by you, another is confused by your change. The common thread isn't you. It's how many people built their emotional stability on the expectation that you would never actually change. And now that you have, the ripple is so strong that it's warping entire networks of relationships and conversations. And while all this is happening in rooms and chats you're not in, what are you doing? You're minding your business and taking the freedom seriously. You start treating their silence like a budget. You realize, if they're not spending their words on me publicly, I'm not spending my energy on them internally. You invest that reclaimed energy into skills, into health, into projects, into environments that don't punish you for expanding. You become hyper-intentional with access. You stop over-explaining your boundaries. You stop defending your standards. You stop giving front-row seats to people who are only there to study your reactions. This new level of emotional discipline is exactly what terrifies them. Because for the first time, you're not only winning, you're winning sustainably. That's when the group chat panic upgrades into strategy. Silence doesn't feel like enough anymore. Somebody will test the waters. They'll send a half-joke, half-dagger message like, "Y'all seen their latest? They're doing the most." Waiting to see who bites. Waiting to see who's brave enough to say what they're all thinking. Low-key, it's impressive, but nobody wants to break rank. Admitting you're winning would mean acknowledging they misjudged you. It would mean rewriting the narrative from "they're delusional" to "they were just early." That's a level of humility the room wasn't built for. So instead of praise, they try minimization. It's just a phase. Give it a few months. They're probably miserable behind the scenes. Anything to avoid confronting the one possibility they fear the most. You're actually at peace. And the more they minimize you in private, the more your reality refuses to cooperate with their script. Their predictions keep failing. They said you'd fold when things got quiet. You didn't. They said you'd crawl back when you felt lonely. You built new connections instead. They said you'd never maintain this discipline. You turned it into your default setting. Every wrong prediction is another blow to their credibility in their own mind. Because if they were this wrong about you, what else are they wrong about? That question is like acid to anyone whose entire personality is built on believing they can read people. Suddenly their favorite hobby, talking about you, starts making them feel powerless instead of superior. So they double down on therapy. More sessions, more money, more hours used trying to dissect a person who isn't even in the room. But the therapist isn't blind. They see the loop. They see how often conversations pivot back to you. They see how little responsibility is taken. At some point, they have to protect the integrity of the work. That's where the quiet quitting becomes official. Maybe they say, "I think it's time we end our work together if you're not ready to focus on your own life." Maybe they set a boundary. "We're not going to discuss this person next session. Let's go into your goals instead." To your enemies, it feels like betrayal. Their $800 bought them confrontation instead of comfort. From the therapist's perspective, it's self-preservation. Nobody wants to be paid to watch someone cling to their resentment like it's a personality trait. And here's the twisted beauty of it. Your existence is now exposing not just fake friends and old acquaintances, but also the limits of avoidance in people who claim they want healing. You are unintentionally triggering dissolutions, friend circles, group chats, therapy alliances. Anywhere your name shows up, false stability starts cracking. Not because you're cursed, not because you're causing harm, but because your life is now a stress test. If something isn't built on truth, your growth will shake it. A group chat built on mutual underestimation of you, dead. A social circle built on laughing at your losses, fragmented. A therapeutic journey built on, "It's everyone else's fault but mine," terminated. All you did was stop performing your pain for them, and the entire ecosystem started collapsing under its own dishonesty. So what do you do with that? You could waste your time feeling guilty, apologizing for being a walking catalyst. Or you could recognize this for what it is, proof that you were never as small as they tried to convince you. You were always operating at a voltage that their circuits weren't designed to hold. That's why they had to turn you into a joke, into a warning, into a cautionary tale. It made them feel safe. Now the joke isn't landing. The warning doesn't apply. And the cautionary tale is outliving every prediction. So they're left staring at the uncomfortable truth. The person they thought would be the caution became the blueprint. Little by little, you start to detach your identity from their reactions. You stop checking who watched your stories. You stop decoding passive-aggressive posts. You stop rereading old messages for closure. You realize the closure you were waiting for is happening in rooms you can't see. It's happening in the silence after your name gets dropped. It's happening in the awkward stares when someone slips and admits, honestly, they're doing well. It's happening in the moment a therapist closes a file and thinks, if you channeled half the energy you spend on stalking this person into your own goals, you might be standing beside them, not beneath them. All of that is closure in disguise. You may never hear it, but it's happening. And as this awareness settles in, your relationship to your own success changes. It stops being a revenge fantasy and becomes a responsibility. If your mere progress is enough to trigger this much spiritual and psychological rearrangement, what happens when you get intentional? What happens when you stop running from your potential because it makes people uncomfortable, and start running toward it because it's your assignment. The same way your healing is exposing some people, your discipline will inspire others. The same way your name killed conversations in one chat, it will fuel courage in another. There are people quietly watching you who aren't threatened. They're taking notes. They're not in the group chat that died. They're in a different space entirely, one where your wins don't suffocate the room. They oxygenate it. The irony is cruel in the most beautiful way. The group chat that went dead when someone said you're winning thought they were protecting themselves from discomfort by not talking about you. Instead, they protected you from their low-frequency analysis. Their silence became insulation. Without their constant commentary, you had room to hear your intuition more clearly. Without their instant hot takes, you had space to experiment, to fail in peace, to refine your process. In trying to keep you out of their narrative, they accidentally took themselves out of your storyline. That's the kind of protection only the universe can orchestrate, using their own pettiness as a tool. And the therapist who mentally resigned in the face of their obsession, that resignation sent shockwaves through their sense of control. When even a professional is done hearing about you, it forces a terrifying realization. You are not the one spinning in circles. They are. You moved. You changed. You evolved. They stayed anchored in a past version of you and called it analysis. The professional who was supposed to help them unpack that finally says, "Enough. Look at yourself." That's not just a therapeutic boundary. That's cosmic confirmation that your role in their story is over. Your chapter in their life isn't just closed, it's archived. The only one replaying it is them. So you sit with that truth. You are no longer the main character in their narrative. You are the plot twist they keep referencing to avoid doing the work. But you're done being a reference. You're busy being a reality. You're busy being the person who didn't just survive their doubt, but turned it into the quiet fuel that powers your next level. Every dead group chat, every drained therapy session, every awkward silence when your name surfaces, those are just receipts. Receipts that confirm what you already suspected. You were never asking for too much. You were always carrying too much for people who had no intention of meeting you where you were going. And as this realization hardens into clarity, something else surfaces beneath it. Something colder, calmer, far more strategic. If this is the chaos your early wins created, what happens when you step fully into the version of you that's been pacing in the back of your mind for years? If you're half committed, still healing, still doubting self, was enough to send rooms into shutdown mode, what would a fully aligned, fully disciplined, unapologetically focused version of you do to the spaces you're about to enter? That question doesn't just haunt them, it starts to wake you up in a different way. Because now the conversation isn't about them at all. It's about the scale of your own potential, and whether you're finally ready to match it. You don't announce that decision. You don't post a graphic. You don't make a speech about cutting people off. You just start moving differently. You choose the harder option more often. You choose the long-term payoff over the short hit. You choose your purpose over your ego. You choose rooms that stretch you instead of rooms that worship the old you. Quietly, consistently, ruthlessly, you become the kind of person who doesn't need their support, their applause, or their understanding. And somewhere, in a muted group chat and a closed therapy file, the energy shifts again, because whether they want to or not, They're about to feel the next phase of your evolution in ways even they don't have language for yet. From the outside, it looks boring. No public fallout. No dramatic farewell post. No speech about cutting off fake people. Just absence. Your name stops appearing where it used to. You stop reacting to bait. You stop oversharing. You stop giving free episodes of your life for them to binge and dissect. Your attention goes from them back to your own life. Earlier nights, clearer mornings, less scrolling, more building, less explaining, more executing. They think you fell off the radar. Reality, you fell out of their range. They can't read you like they used to, and for control addicts, that's worse than any argument. But the universe has timing that feels like disrespect. Just when they all decide, silently, that they're over you, your name walks back into the room they sealed off. That group chat. It's never loud. It's always something small. Y'all seen them lately? Random. But did you see what they posted? Someone drops a screenshot. Your new routine, your new body, your new project, your new calm. The room tenses, waiting for the roast. They're ready for the same old script, until one person breaks formation and types the sentence everyone's tried not to think. Low-key, they're winning. And right there, the soul of the chat flatlines. Bubbles appear, vanish, never land. Phones go dark. People suddenly become busy. That one line drops like a power cut. Because their winning isn't about aesthetics. It's about the fact that you aren't collapsing on schedule. It's about seeing your eyes and realizing the chaos behind them has been replaced by something stable. It's about knowing you made it out of the mental maze they're still wandering through. If you're winning, then all the narratives they built, they'll never change. They're all talk. They're finished without us. Have to be rewritten. Nobody wants that assignment. So they pretend they didn't see it. They close the app. But the sentence lingers. They stalk you in private, zooming in on your photos, analyzing your captions, trying to find cracks that reassure them. They look tired. They probably faking it. Bet it won't last. They say it out loud like a spell, hoping repetition will make it true. But the photos keep changing. The energy keeps changing. The results keep stacking. Your name is now carrying proof instead of pity, and they have to feel that in their chest without anyone saying another word. The one who dropped, they're winning, feels the temperature shift too. They realize they broke an unspoken law. Don't acknowledge your growth. They scramble to water it down. I mean, like for now, I'm just saying they look different. But the damage is done. Truth already detonated in the room. Even in silence, every person in that thread just got handed a mirror. If they can heal and build, what's my excuse? Where do they run with that discomfort? Back to the $1,800 sanctuary. Picture the therapist's office, soft lighting, neutral decor, a chair that's heard it all. And in that chair sits someone paying premium rates to discuss a person they claim to be done with. Your name arrives before the session even warms up. So something weird happened in the group chat. Ever since they started glowing up, I just feel on edge. It's like everything they do gets under my skin. They present it as confusion, concern, injustice. Underneath all that vocabulary, the core is simple. It bothers me that they got out of a story I'm still stuck in. The therapist listens, but internally, they've clocked the pattern. This isn't the first session your name has headlined. It's not even the fifth. Every time your life moves forward, this person emotionally regresses. Every win you have sends them into a spiral. Every boundary you hold gets framed as selfish. or fake. The therapist keeps trying to redirect. What do you want for yourself? Who are you outside of this relationship? But somehow every road circles back to you. That isn't healing. That's addiction with a copay. There comes a point where even a professional decides, enough. So one day, after yet another rant about how much your existence irritates them, the therapist drops a different kind of question. If this person never changed again, would your life suddenly feel better? Or are they just the easiest place to park feelings you don't want to deal with? That lands like a punch. The client stares, stalls, changes the subject, tries to drag your name back into the center. The therapist doesn't follow this time. They set a boundary. Next week, we're not going to talk about them. We're going to talk about you. Translation: I'm done being your paid audience for a storyline that refuses to move. That's the moment the therapist quietly quits you. Not because you did anything, but because they're done letting your image be the scapegoat for someone else's refusal to grow. Your enemies leave that office unsettled. The one place they expected to buy unconditional validation just handed them a mirror instead. That's why they're mad at two people now. You, for daring to improve, and the therapist, for refusing to keep translating their jealousy into symptoms that make them look innocent. Meanwhile, you're nowhere in this loop. You're not posting subliminals. You're not checking their status. You're not asking mutuals what's being said. You're too busy living the exact life their nervous systems can't handle you having. Your group chat right now is your calendar, your to-do list, your vision board, your journal. You're in meetings, in workouts, in deep focus, in solitude, in prayer, in plotting sessions with your future. The only therapist you're visiting is the part of you that used to beg to be chosen, and you're finally telling it, we don't chase rooms that can't handle us anymore. Here's the dark joke the universe is making with all of this. They turned you into the villain of a story you already left, and then got emotionally winded trying to keep up with your plotline from the outside. Their group chat died the second someone told the truth. Their sessions drained out the second a professional refused to co-sign their delusion. All that time, you were just doing the one thing they hoped you'd never figure out how to do. Stop orbiting them and start orbiting your purpose. Once you see it that clearly, the revenge fantasy gets boring. You don't need screenshots. You don't need their confessions. You don't need to watch their faces as they realize the therapist is done using you as a human shield for their issues. You already have your receipts, the silence, the obsession, the money spent processing a person who doesn't even know they're the main topic. Those are all proof of impact. People do not emotionally bankrupt themselves over background characters. They only spiral like this over threats. So you pick a different kind of revenge. Precision. You get serious about your time. You start treating your focus like it's sacred. You stop trying to prove your goodness to people who survive off misreading you. You stop answering questions you didn't sign up for. You refine your circle down to the ones who don't flinch when your name and the word winning exist in the same sentence. You become the kind of person whose baseline is so aligned that if someone new met you today, the old stories people tell about you would sound like bad fiction. And as you do that, a new pattern emerges. In the wrong rooms, your name kills conversations. In the right rooms, it sparks strategy. Somewhere else, far away from that dead chat and that exhausted therapist, someone says, "Have you seen what they've done with their life after all that?" And the response is not silence, it's respect. People lean in. They're not trying to drag you. They're trying to decode you. They're not threatened that you're winning. They're inspired that you didn't let what tried to break you become your whole personality. That's the ecosystem you were always built for. Spaces where your progress doesn't trigger collapse. It triggers courage. So when your mind replays the line, "Their group chat went dead the second somebody said you're winning," don't hear shame in it. Hear diagnosis. That was the exact moment reality walked into the room and every false version of you died on contact. And when you think about, they paid $1,900 this month just to cry about you. Therapists still quit anyway. Understand how poetic that is. That's a spiritual invoice. That's the cost of staring at your growth and refusing to grow themselves. You didn't ruin their peace. You simply stopped sacrificing yours to maintain their illusions. You didn't break their circle. You just left, and the weak wiring exposed itself once your energy was no longer holding it together. You didn't make their therapist give up. Their refusal to take responsibility did. All you did was finally treat your life like it was serious. And everything that was built on joking about you, doubting you, or feeding off your pain cracked under the pressure of you becoming real. Let it all stay dead. The chat, the narrative, the version of you they debate like a rumor instead of respecting like a fact. Let them keep funding sessions to process someone who has already moved on. You're not their case study. You're not their cautionary tale. You're not their favorite failure. You are the proof that a person can be underestimated, misunderstood, mishandled, and still wake up one morning and say, "Enough. I'm done performing my suffering for people who clap for my confusion." From here on out, the only people who survive saying your name are the ones whose spirit doesn't glitch when they see you winning. Everyone else can stay exactly where they chose to be, silent in the chat, loud in the sessions, spinning in circles around an outdated version of you. You've already left that storyline. You've already paid your price. This part of the movie belongs to the you that didn't just hear "you're winning," but finally decided to live like it, unapologetically, whether anyone in those rooms ever finds the courage to say it out loud again or not.